In a perfect world, we wouldn't have much trauma and we'd have regulated nervous systems from having parents that had regulated nervous systems. And we could do this meditation path where we're really focusing, if we're doing it technically correct, focusing our attention on awareness and growing this. And then as a byproduct, what would happen is it would start to move through all the unconscious material while you're meditating and then taking that into your day, while you start to take your spiritual practice into the day and notice that you're in the position of awareness, and to not take everything that's happening so seriously and fall into it all the time and get identified with everything that's going on. And if you just did that practice and you didn't have much trauma and you were doing it technically correct, you very much could wake up that way. How long it would take, who knows? It could take decades. It would depend how much unconscious material is there. But this is how effective and how important this feeding this side of awareness is because it works in dissolving identity. When we start going through an awakening, one of the first things that happens is that we realize we can witness our thoughts or witness the content that's going on here. We usually notice it as witnessing thinking. And so we may have before just been totally identified with the thought processes that were going on. We didn't realize that there was any ability to watch your thoughts. And a type of separation happens where we are now able to be in the witness position. More witnessing is more accurate. And we are able to see the content of emotional content, how you're feeling in the body, in the contractions, and also the thought processes that are going on. And so we start off with just this opening up where we're able to witness some thoughts. And the thoughts that we can witness are really on the surface level, that we start to be able to pay attention to them. They're on the conscious level of thinking. But just like the iceberg analogy, where most of the iceberg is under the water, so most of the unconscious material is hidden under the water and only the conscious part pops up. This is the part of the mind we'll start to be able to witness as we first start going through awakening. And so this may feel really wonderful to be able to witness your thoughts. You may finally start to understand what to do in meditation. Mindfulness practices might make more sense to you. Spiritual practices in general will start to make more sense when you have this ability now to witness your thoughts, witness thinking. And then we really go on a journey where we're going from seeing these surface level thoughts, these conscious thoughts, to deeper and deeper content. And then the further we go in awakening, the deeper into the unconscious material we go. And so there's a constant deepening that happens as we cycle through the layers of the unconscious material, the unconscious mind. So this could be things like beliefs, long-held beliefs, limiting beliefs, beliefs that we get from our parents, elective conditioning about being a woman or a man or a human or living where we live. All kinds of things will be hiding out in that unconscious material. And we start to get access to that. The more we access awareness, so the more we focus our attention, so if this is the content and this is the awareness of it, so we now have the ability to witness the content. That's great. We have to start there. So now we're witnessing this content, and the content is of a surface level initially of what we can see. And then we start to go deeper into this content by placing more attention, by resting attention on this, on awareness. Now, we don't have to understand what it is that we're doing. And in fact, we can't really understand it. It's more an intuitive process along the lines of meditating, but sitting silently and putting attention on this position, which we can just call awareness. Call it what you will, but we'll say it's your true nature. When we give more attention to this, what happens as a result is lots of things, but one thing that happens is that we can start to access deeper unconscious material. And then we're witnessing more of this deeper belief systems and identities and things that have been hiding out there all of your life. And that's what we really want to help to break the identity apart, is we're wanting to see what's in hiding. And so this is a really key component of awakening. And really that explains the two main themes of awakening, is that one is placing attention on awareness and that growing and that waking up. And we're really feeding this. We're trying to stop feeding the content so much. Stop becoming so interested in what the mind is saying. Lose the fascination of the mind and what's happening in the outside world. Start to pull back from that and look inward. And what you find when you look inward is this your true nature, this witnessing, this silence, the stillness, God, whatever you want to call it, emptiness. This pure awareness that is here is just dormant in us. And when we place attention on it, it begins to wake up and remember. We remember who we are. And so this feeds that process, and that's what wakes up in an awakening. It's a remembering of, I was asleep. I was asleep when I came into form. I always fall asleep when I come into form. And I insert myself into the character, and in that I forget who I am. I go unconscious. I forget. That's all that's happened. Nothing bad is happening. I forget when I play this character who I truly am. And then when I go through an awakening, when I start the process, I start to remember. But we really want to complete it, and we want it to go all the way through every single part of our experience, all the way through the unconscious material. And that's what we can call the awakening process. And why it's so lengthy is because there's so much unconscious material there because of karma, lifetimes, and all that type of thing. There's a lot to work through. And so we place our attention on awareness, and then not only does that wake it up through constant attention, constant meditating in an effective way, in a very specific way that I've spoken about before, this then allows also as a byproduct for us to access deeper unconscious material. And that is what dissolves the identity. So you can see how there's sort of two sides to it, but they work together in harmony to allow for a dissolution of the identity and a remembering of who you are. So we can't have one without the other. Both things need to happen. But by doing this side of things, which is why I say this is the priority, you could say, that allows for this side to happen naturally. Now, often we need a lot more help than just meditating and focusing our attention on awareness. There's so many things that can get in our way now because we have so much karma and so much trauma as a species. And so this is why it's more complicated than that, because there's all these blocks that happen, like a dysregulated nervous system, that don't allow for a deepening into our being to happen. In a perfect world, we wouldn't have much trauma, and we'd have regulated nervous systems from having parents that had regulated nervous systems. And we could do this meditation path where we're really focusing, if we're doing it technically correct, focusing our attention on awareness and growing this. And then as a byproduct, what would happen is it would start to move through all the unconscious material while you're meditating, and then taking that into your day, while you start to take your spiritual practice into the day and notice that you're in the position of awareness, and to not take everything that's happening so seriously and fall into it all the time and get identified with everything that's going on. And if you just did that practice and you didn't have much trauma and you were doing it technically correct, you very much could wake up that way. How long it would take, who knows? It could take decades. It would depend how much unconscious material is there. But this is how effective and how important this feeding this side of awareness is because it works in dissolving identity. It truly does. It's just that usually we need a bit more support than just sitting in silence and allowing the silence, which really is a solvent, to dissolve the unconscious layers. And this is why I talk about other practices that assist in letting this dissolution process to move a bit faster and to get through blocks that we're having. I really could just say the whole teaching is just do very good meditation. And if you're able to do that, be silent, be still, as Ramana Maharshi said. And then he said, if you can't do that for whatever reason, then ask, who am I? And so he gives you 2 spiritual practices to try. So if we were able to really stay still and sit in the awareness position and not pick up another thought again, not identify with it, stay in that position and allow it to work its way through the unconscious material. If we had the capability in life, if our life allowed it with our priorities, if, we were living at an ashram or a monastery and we didn't have much trauma and there wasn't things getting in our way, then we could wake up that way, because it really is simple in a way. We really want to go deeper into our being, and in that, the identity dissolves. It dissolves, it goes through the layers if we're doing very good practice. The challenge is, in our modern society, most of us aren't set up in a way that we're going through an awakening where this is possible at all. And so we have to come up with other ways to just support the process and allow it to move a bit more quickly, and also help with any blocks that we're having because of trauma and karma loads and life responsibilities and all of that. And that's why we talk about practices that dissolve the identity, just to assist in this overall process that is happening. And so this could be contemplation practices. Self-inquiry can help with both sides of things. It could be, how do I break this belief that I have, that I got from my mother? It could be, what about these identities that I have running to, these core identities I have running where I believe that, I'm a person or that I'm a woman. Can I contemplate or do self-inquiry or do a practice on that? And then just a lot of healing work is often required, because we have the contractions, the traumas, the imprints really lodged in the body and the nervous system. If there wasn't a lot there, I could take a guess and say, if you meditated well, you may be able to get through even that on the level of the body. If you were really focusing on accessing presence in the body, the felt sense of awareness in the body, if you were doing that practice very well and working through all the layers of the unconscious material, including what is held in the physical body, and perhaps you were doing something like a very conscious type of yoga or qigong, and really assisting in shifting that energy in the body, that could be sufficient to wake up for some people. If you were very focused on it, had very good technique, the way that you were doing it, that really could work. And it's the challenge is that most of us have too much content in there, perhaps from too many lives, too many incarnations. Perhaps it's because the world is so busy and noisy and doesn't really support awakening that makes it harder. Perhaps it's just where we're at with the species, our overall collective trauma load. Who knows really? But it seems as though just a meditation path is often not helpful enough. But there's a lot that can be learnt through just understanding what it is we're trying to do with awakening, and then you can start to add to it and make your path your own, and because you know what it is you're trying to do. And so a lot of what I teach is about giving you different ideas. So not all of them will be relevant for you. Not every practice is relevant, and it's choosing what's right for me right now, and what challenges do I have that I need to work on and work through to help with my specific awakening that is unfolding here. And so it helps to sort of break it down to the simplicity of what is going on. We're placing attention on awareness through meditation, and that allows it to remember. It allows us to remember what we are. In that process, it dissolves identity. We go through the deeper layers of the unconscious material bit by bit. And if we were to stay just doing that, and we were just to increase our practice endlessly and going deeper without anything getting in our way, we could wake up that way. We could. But if we have anything that is creating a block to us being able to meditate, such as too much trauma in the body, not having a lifestyle that's in alignment with awakening, too much responsibility, anything at all, whatever it is, they're the things that we need to address first so that we can then focus on awakening, focus on our practice. And so hopefully this talk just helps to explain a little bit about how awakening works overall, and then why we add extra practices like even going to therapy or things that are outside of awakening. What's the point of that? Why are we actually doing it? And it's really, we're doing these extra practices, whether it's breaking a belief on the level of the mind, or going into a trauma imprint in the body, and or doing inner child work to help the psyche to let go, to unhook from a period of time where it's stuck, or changing a behavior that we have because it's not in alignment with truth. Whatever it is that we're doing, whatever additional techniques, we know that we're doing that to dissolve the identity. We're helping support that process to move along a bit more quickly, because the more of that content that is there, the more you're going to be automatically put to sleep into the trance. And so we want to move away from that automatic process happening by clearing out. We empty out. So we empty out by focusing attention on awareness. That helps. And we empty out through doing practices that dissolve identity, and things like specific types of therapy that work on the body, bodily imprints, and things like inner child work that work very well to break the patterns that are establishing that me sense. It's like bringing that unconscious material back into form and contracting and giving us a sense that we exist here, even though we don't. And so we want to try to break free of that as quickly as possible, which is why I usually suggest that, yes, meditation is the priority, because this is how we really wake up. This is how we remember who we are. But the faster we can get through this unconscious material, the more we are going to be clear and sober through the awakening process. We're going to get that clarity that we need to stop falling into the trance again. And so I suggest to work through the identity unconscious material in whichever way is right for you. There is really endless ways that can help with this. But I suggest to do that as quickly as possible, because that is not just putting you back to sleep, and so it's making awakening more difficult. It's creating that yo-yo effect that we get, where we feel like I got it, I feel awake now, and then, oh no, it's gone again. I feel completely in a trance again. And we yo-yo back and forth, or pendulum swing back and forth between the two, which is quite painful to live like that. It sort of creates a lot of disharmony and makes the awakening process harder. It's just overall going to make things smoother the faster you work through the identity, because that's what's blocking you. That's the block between you just living from this permanently. That's creating the veil that's making you believe in separation. And so if you feel like it's right for you, then find ways to dissolve this identity, besides just the meditation, which does work on some level to dissolve it, but to come at it more quickly, and because it is what is creating suffering and disharmony. It's stopping you from waking up. It's getting you that yo-yo feeling. It's doing all kinds of things to just allow your life to be not as as happy and for you to be as content as you could be. And so hopefully this talk just explains to you a bit more about how awakening works in general, and then you can decide which practices are right for you and how you want to approach it in the best way for you.